Greetings brothers, today we're going to be breaking down just what secondaries are going to score you the most points in Warzone Nachmund Grand Tournament Pack, so let's get into it. If we're just meeting, I'm John the Blood Angels Commander, and every week on this channel we try and help you become a better Blood Angels player. If that's something you're interested in, please consider subscribing. So this week's episode is based heavily on some data that was available on both the ITC app and it was shared on Goonhammer a week or so. So what I've taken the data from that and I've tried to extrapolate it. So the idea this week was to really help you know what secondaries are going to score highly consistently for you. And a pro tip could be when you're building your army to think about some of these secondaries and have key secondaries in mind based on what you actually choose to put in your lists. So if we look at Purge the Enemy, Assassination averages 7.6 VP, and this is across like hundreds of games. Bring It Down is now up at 8.6, and that's a 10% increase, and Titan Hunter is also up to 8.9 at a 3.5% increase. I said Codex Warfare, I couldn't get any stats on that, it's not really played very much. I think at best you could maybe hope to score 8, and I think Blade of Sanguinius is just too risky because you need to basically throw a character across the board to chase an enemy character. I really don't like it. So I guess the main thing to note is Assassination is down. It's a little bit harder to assassinate characters in Nachmund. Potentially people are playing them a little bit more defensively. Bring It Down is definitely a good choice if you're up against the vehicle heavy list. You're going to average 8.6, and obviously the pick rate represents that. And then Titan Hunter, I guess if you are against Titans, it is an even better choice than it was. It's averaging 8.9, but obviously that is a very situational pick. Now for No Mercy, No Respite. No Prisoners got buffed as well, and you can see now you actually average 8 points if you take No Prisoners. Again, you're going to need to be up against an infantry heavy list, but this could be good against Tau, because Tau do run a lot of infantry, and it's a 6% increase in change, and it's got a reasonable pick rate. Grind Them Down and To the Last have actually both dropped very small amounts. The pick rate has stayed pretty consistently. Fury of the Lost is definitely a Death Company specific one. If you're bringing 3+ units of Death Company, you could consider it. Oath of the Moment is a huge secondary. It can basically one of the highest scoring secondaries in the entire game, 9.8 points, and it's picked very often if you're Space Marines. Obviously, these percentages here are across all armies. For just Space Marines, it is a high pick. Oath of the Moment is really, really good. And then Death from Above is, I guess, if you have a lot of reserves, Death from Above could actually be really good for Flesh Tearers, or if you're bringing like a lot of stuff in from reserves. However, I think when you compare it to Oath of the Moment just maybe feels much more safe. I actually looked at a bunch of my last games, last 6 times I've picked Oath of the Moment. I'm actually scoring consistently between like 12 and 13 points every game. So Oath of the Moment is a huge pick in No Mercy, No Respite. So next up is Warcraft, and the main change I want to shout out is Psychic Interrogation having longer range and you no longer need line of sight. It is a 20% increase in the points you get, and it's got a reasonably high pick rate. So if you're going to run a couple of Psychers, potentially Psychic Interrogation, this is actually very valuable. Rort Ripchill and Pierce the Veil are both down, and Abhor the Witch is obviously a situational pick if you're up against like Grey Knights or Thousand Suns, or maybe something like Death Guard that have a lot of Psychers, but it is a good pick if you're up against the right armies. Psychic Interrogation is the one that really stands out though. Very interesting to see this, and if you haven't seen anyone using this, I used it just last week. I ran it with 2 Psychers and I got 9 VP in the game that I used it in. Shadow Operations. So Banners is down. Nachmund data, which is really no surprise, is down. Investigate Signals is up, but from the looks of things it's still kind of trash. And Teleport Homers is up a lot. Obviously, Teleport Homers before you could only do in the enemy deployment zone. Now you can do out with. You also can complete the action in the same turn if it's done by OBSEC units. So I think the main thing to notice here is Nachmund data, which was a very solid scoring, safe secondary that a lot of people picked. Still getting picked a lot, but the points you're getting are down 12%. Basically, you lose a whole victory point on average if you take Nachmund data. That requirement of the more troops, adding some randomness, is making it a bit more difficult. I think Banners is situational based on if you're on a 6 objective map. And Deploy Teleport Homers is one that I've not picked myself yet. It's seeing very little action, but I guess when it's seeing action, it's consistently scoring high. So this may be one to look out for. And we're going to come on to some other ones that synergize with Teleport Homers on the very next slide. and they are going to be in Battlefield Supremacy. We have Behind Enemy Lines coming in at 8.4, and it's a 5% change. Not picked too often. Again, it's going to be situational if your opponent can screen out their deployment zone. And Relentless Assault, when picked for Blood Angel, is actually 8.6. So there's an argument sometimes that is Behind Enemy Lines easier to score than Relentless Assault? Well, the math here and across tournaments, obviously this has got a low pick rate because it can only be picked by Blood Angels, but it is saying that Relentless Assault does actually score consistently higher than Behind Enemy Lines. Bear in mind, not many people try and flood Blood Angel's deployment zone with units. Usually, it would be the Blood Angel player trying to flood the enemy deployment zone, and in that, 8.6. Stranglehold seems like a solid one. Not much change there. Still pick a lot if you have an army that's durable and you can consistently hold more objectives than the enemy. It's good. And then Engage on All Fronts is actually down over 10%. Again, they've made this one quite harder with the requirement of either the vehicle keyword or a minimum of 3 models. So you would expect Engage on All Fronts to be harder to score, and it very much is. Shock Tactics, I think another Space Marine one that we don't see picked barely ever, requires you to flip objectives, and I think it's a very difficult one to consistently score. We don't see it, so I can't give you data on how many points you would consistently get from this. I think if you ever got 9 from it, that would actually be really good. I think you're much more likely to get like 6, and I would probably just ignore Shock Tactics. What do we know? Secondaries that got much harder or generally perform badly are Warp Ritual, Pierce the Veil, Investigate Signals, Retrieve Nachmund data, and Engage on All Fronts, and some of these were key to my playing 6 months ago. I was always running Octarius data, it's now Nachmund data. I would often run Engage on All Fronts if there wasn't better options, but secondaries that are now performing well or have improved and are definitely worth considering are Relentless Assault Behind Enemy Lines, scoring about 8.5 points on average. Deploy Teleport Homers, also scoring 8.5 points, and those two actually combo really well with the Blood Angels army. You can run both. Oath of Moment, I guess, doesn't really synergize with the first two, but Oath of Moment is a great Space Marine one. Often will score you 10 points near enough. Psychic Interrogation now up to over 8 points. Quite a good choice if you have got a couple of Psychers or you can fit them in your list. And then No Prisoners, situational of course, but when it is available, now with an additional 1 point for getting 50 tally and an additional 2 points for getting over 100, you can definitely get a lot more points from No Prisoners. And I suppose I should have Bring It Down there as well, because that was the other one that really stood out. Because Bring It Down has had a really positive and good increase in the Nachmund chapter approved 2022 book. So next time I'm going to a tournament, I'm going to use this to note down just what secondaries I think I can do and how many points I expect to get from them, so I can make the correct decisions in every game of what secondaries I need to pick. If you got some value out of today's video, I would love it if you would hit that like button. I really appreciate it. And if you want to see more Blood Angels content, then I have stuff coming out on the channel almost 2 or 3 times a week. So please make sure you hit the notification bell so that you never miss any future uploads. With the recent point drops to Death Company, I made a video covering Death Company, Sanguinary Guard and Vanguard veterans and just how I think they're shaping up in the current Nachmund Warzone book. If you want to check that video out now, I really appreciate it if you would watch that one, and if not, no worries, I will catch you in the next video. Thanks again for watching. By the blood are we made strong, brothers. Peace.